Our top stories this morning: the Dubai Land Department granting freehold rights to Sheikh Zayed Road and Al Jaddaf property owners. We are joined by Andy Love. He's the regional partner and head of Middle East capital markets and the commercial agency at Knight Frank, which sells such things. Andy, it's nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is a new directive out from the Dubai Land Department. Private property owners on the stretch of Sheikh Zayed Road from the Trade Centre to the Canal, as well as Al Jaddaf, can convert their property to leasehold from freehold. What does that mean technically?
So it's around a 10-kilometre stretch. So what that would typically mean is that owners of land or buildings historically could only sell those lands or buildings to people from GCC countries holding GCC passports. So the likes of you or me, not that we could afford a hotel or a land in these areas, we wouldn't be allowed to buy. So it's a significant change, it's a big change, and it'll have some big impacts.
What do we know about what can be sold? Is it commercial? Is it residential? Is it plots that have been zoned for either?
I haven't seen the law, so I haven't read it, but I imagine it'll be all asset classes. And I think the initiative is probably being done to encourage more FDI, foreign direct investment, into these areas and to encourage some of these plots to be built quicker.
And what we're talking about here is not just the ability to build on top of the land, but to own the land itself.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, you could say you have leasehold land, which is a right for a certain period, sometimes up to 49 years, 99 years, and you have freehold. And within freehold, you have GCC ownership, which is forever, and you also have international freehold, which is forever. So this gives the right for foreigners to own in these areas forever.
Is this land likely to change hands, though? I mean, a lot of this will be in family portfolios. It will be leased out long term. How much of an appetite is it to actually sell?
Yeah, I think, look, you're right. There's a lot of families who hold for succession planning, tend not to sell. But, you know, speaking from my own experience, over the last 15 years, I've probably sold 10 to 15 plots along the Sheikh Zayed Road. So they do trade. The issue is, when I'm selling these plots, I can only sell them to GCC, so my buyer pools are limited. And what that has is an impact on value. Because if you have a plot with, say, 1 million square foot of built-up area, you know, you're talking values 600, 700, 800 million. A traditional developer in the city, if you like it, DMAC or a Select Group or MAG, their traditional sources of funding is off-plan. Now, if you have a GCC plot and you can't sell to foreigners, it means you have to be fully funded in order to develop that plot out, which is difficult.
So what could we see happen to land values and property prices? How much could they rise by?
Significantly. I could probably talk from experience. I'm selling a plot just now, which is for GCC only. The value's probably, as it is today, 200. And I suspect that value could go
per
200 million. So let's say it's around 200 on the GFA per square foot. That value will now go to 400, 500, maybe even 600 on the GFA. So you could have a tripling of values up to in certain areas.
There's a cost for doing it, though, isn't there? 30% of the valuation.
Yeah, I believe, and I need to read the detail on that and how it is done. Is it on the GFA or is it on the completed? If it's on the GFA, then that's okay.
It also, I suppose, depends on whether it's on the valuation as it stands today or the valuation of what it'll be worth if it can be sold to anybody.
Yeah, I think they'll probably do it on the valuation, probably of today's rates, comparable rates and what's been transacted. But as these plots then trade, those comparables will then become more apparent. But it'll also affect hotel owners, you know, the likes of the Shangri-La or, you know, any of the hotels by the Trade Centre. Those values will drastically increase because you are limited to a very select group of hotel owners in the GCC who could afford such hotels. Now you're opening up to global hotel groups, you know, whether that's Blackstones, your BlackRocks, your Mubadlas. So, you know, there'll be a whole different category of buyers now who can enter this market.
Are we also opening up to more strata ownership? So more of these properties being broken down into individual owners, whether that's by floor, by unit. I know we've got, some buildings that might have a hotel on just a couple of floors.
Yeah, absolutely. You could probably say Rolex Tower was the first branded residence in the UAE, right? If Mr. Siddiqui wanted to break that up and sell it, he now probably in could theory do that, which would allow someone then to have a residence on Sheikh Zayed Road in that stretch, which they couldn't really have before unless they were renting.
What does it mean also? You talk about the expanded pool of buyers, and you've mentioned some major funds and private capital players there. What about things like pension funds and things like REITs and their appetites and possibilities?
Look, every month we're having a meeting with a global institution, pension funds, with a view to looking to invest in the UAE and Dubai. I think historically they have probably not looked at this region, and one of the reasons why is liquidity. When these funds come and invest in these areas, they don't just want to invest one time. They need to be sure that they have enough supply, stock, buildings to consistently recycle, trade in and out of. So it's not a case of buying one building for $100 million. They want to buy 15 to 20. So the opening up of these areas to allow FDI will certainly encourage that.
Could it make the REIT industry take off? I know we've got a couple, but I would argue that we're well under potential.
Sorry,
for REITs?
REITs. Yeah, I think potentially, yes. And they brought out a law in August 2022, which would encourage funds to set up. I believe they get lower transfer fees. They allow shareholders to come in and out of the fund without attracting a 2% fee on the shareholding value. And the cost encourages them to also purchase in non-freehold areas. So there is a law there, and it came out in August 2022. But as of yet, we've not seen many people take advantage of it.
How far could this go? What's your Scooby sense on this one? Could this just be the start of a wider freehold area of a sea change in who can own what?
Potentially. I'd like to see it. But, look, I could understand if they didn't allow it in core residential areas like Jumeirah. But certainly in areas like Bur Dubai, Deira, I think it would be a welcome change. Now, why? Because it would encourage developers to come in, take older stock, refurbish them, reposition them, whereas a lot of these existing owners haven't been doing that. So I think if it extended into apartment buildings in older areas, I think that would be quite attractive.
Good for real estate agents as well, presumably.
Always. It's the good times.
Andrew Love is Regional Partner and Head of Middle East Capital Markets and the Commercial Agency at Knight Frank. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, guys.